All right, let's talk about the LSU Tigers. Look, let's be brutally honest here for a second. The way the season went is not at all what LSU should expect, will expect, and can expect going forward. The standard is much higher, and they need to improve on this roster significantly. And it looks like the LSU Tigers, led, of course, by Coach Brian Kelly, are putting themselves in a strong position to critically upgrade their roster at some key spots, mainly through the transfer portal right now. We got some exciting news on that specifically. I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, this LSU squad, one of the disappointments in the SEC this year, let's be totally honest. The season, a lot of heartbreaks, a lot of tough loss, a lot of defensive collapses, looking at the Alabama and A&M defeats specifically that need to be resolved if they're going to go back to competing potentially for a national title. And to that end, it looks like the LSU Tigers are poised to make a massive addition through the transfer portal to address a key part of that defense. Let's pull up this latest report courtesy of SI.com. Brian Kelly and the LSU staff will host several transfer portal targets this week as the program begins its search for reinforcements heading into the 2025 season. There have been several reported targets this week, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, much needed, with another target emerging for the program. This week, Nebraska edge Princewell Umanmielen, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I'm not, please forgive me, officially placed his name in the transfer portal where he became the number one transfer in the system. LSU, quote, stands out to Umanmielen through the first few days of transfer portal season, where the program will look to get a visit from the number one rated prospect available. The 6'5", 245-pounder logged 13 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and half a sack in 2024. All right, Umanmielen obviously is a very talented guy. Adding him to the LSU defense would be much needed, along with some other news. Of course, are now reports Garrett Nussmeier is returning to LSU, not going to the National Football League. Great news there. There's some momentum and energy behind the LSU Tigers program. If they can keep it up and address some of the holes on this roster, they could come back in 2025 with a vengeance. Myers, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this. But first, LSU Tigers fans in the comment section below. What's the one position group you think LSU needs to focus on this offseason to upgrade? Is it the defensive line? Is it linebacking core, DBs, O-line, whatever it is? Give us the position group you think LSU needs to address this offseason and put it in the comment section below. But Miles, what are your thoughts on this latest news out of LSU?
Yeah, Nick, I think this shows that Coach Kelly is not happy with where the defensive side of the ball is at. I think that's good news. I think if you're an LSU fan, the worst thing you could see is, oh, we gotta plan the guys here. We really like who we've got here. We're gonna stick with that core, which is not the answer here. I don't think that is at all. So the fact that they're going out and making concerted effort to build the defense side of the ball. Actually, there's another report as well. They're going after the number 2 safety in the portal and Zechariah Poyser, but that's not nearly as big as the number 1 player in the portal with Unmalan. And I, like I said, if I butcher his name, I apologize. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, but I think nonetheless, pronouncing his name or not, he is going to be a huge addition if they are able to lock him in. The fact that he comes and says that LSU stands out to him, I think that's pretty big, especially a guy coming out of the state of Texas. There's a lot of places you can go, but I think that this is the opportunity for LSU. If they're able to come out and impress players like this, the number 1 player in the portal, I think they have a chance to turn this defense around coming into next season. If Coach Kelly still has that pull, he's got to capitalize. I would say for him here at LSU, this is probably that last year where people are going to be like, okay, there's something going on. We've seen some things. This is going to come into the third year. If it doesn't start to see a massive improvement in this third year, that's when players are going to start to be like, okay, well, maybe there's not enough hope. That maybe there's not something brewing in LSU. Maybe it just is what it is at that point. So I think for Coach Kelly and his crew to recognize that and start to capitalize and go after some of these top players in the portal, I think that's really big for LSU, and it shows that they know this as well, and they're trying to make the biggest push they can. Nussmeier, like you said, coming back, that's huge for the offense. I think continuity at all positions is going to be huge, and getting playmakers on the defensive side of the ball is going to be really, really good as well, because we know we go back, when did LSU win a national championship? It's when they had playmakers all over the ball. That team was stacked. You had guys like linebacker Patrick Queen just running around doing all kinds of crazy stuff. It was a team that was good on both sides of the ball. I think Coach Kelly is doing the right thing here, and I'm really excited to see how many players they're able to go after in this transfer portal.
Yeah, it's going to be critical they do it through the transfer portal. They brought in, of course, Blake Baker last offseason because they thought, and not incorrectly, that they needed to make a change at the defensive side for coaching, and there were some improvements, right? The 2023 LSU Tigers defense was an abomination. They went from abomination, really quite terrible, to just not very good this year. But they can't be not very good if they're going to compete for national titles. And I think that's the whole problem. And I think that's why Coach Kelly and everyone on LSU is being hyper aggressive in the transfer portal because they see this honestly as a little bit of an SEC title window right here that they're heading into 2025. Texas is going to be good, but it will be a little bit of a transition. Ewers to Arch Manning. Alabama doesn't look nearly as good there. Milroe is likely gone. Like, what do we look at in the SEC? Florida looks better, but we still don't know what Napier is, right? South Carolina's feisty, but it's South Carolina. Tennessee disappointed this season as well. I mean, you go down the list. Auburn, are they any good? A&M still feels a few players away, right? It just Oklahoma just didn't do great their first year in the SEC, and they don't have a quarterback right now that they trust. You look at the SEC as a whole. Georgia obviously is going to be fine; they're really good. But outside of Georgia, it's pretty wide open, right? And I think LSU understands that. Listen, we've got a returning quarterback. We've got some stability. If we can be good on defense, consistently good, and we don't have to rely on Nussmeier throwing for 350 to beat good teams, we have a chance to win this conference or at least make it back to the conference championship game and then make a run in the playoff in 2025. Now is not the time to try and be a developmental program. Now is not the time to bring in some freshmen, let them develop over a couple of years and see where you sit. Now is not the time to focus on coaching and things like that. Now is the time to go out and get great football players, talented guys. That's exactly what they're doing with through the transfer portal. I think it's a smart strategy and it's aggressive strategy. And like you mentioned, this is kind of put up or shut up time for Coach Kelly, right? He came to LSU to get this program back to winning national titles, competing at that level. He hasn't done that yet, to be totally honest. This upcoming season, 2025, he'll have a great opportunity to do so. He needs more talent. They're getting it done with their strategy so far through the transfer portal. They have to execute, get these guys to sign on the line that is dotted, as I like to say, come down to Baton Rouge. If they can do that, fix some of these holes, they could be a real force next season.